That CPU though, is that 112 degrees right? Hold on just a gosh darn minute here. That can't be right. Oh yeah. Yep, that is one unhappy CPU.
Small form factor computers. Not only do you run the risk of your components getting really hot, you're limited by what you can put in it. Like RTX 4090 was definitely a risk. Even putting an i7 into this system was too much.
Woo! Ow! Not enough room. I think I would just go for a lower power CPU.
The CPU was burning up. Now it seems like the GPU is good because the GPU has like its own little pocket. This is old Jay. This is old Jay. This is Jay from 2015, right around Christmas time. God bless.
You got a lot of components here to fit into a pretty small space. Mini ITX motherboards, they're a little bit interesting in that all of them pretty much are gonna have very different arrangements. Whereas like standard ATX motherboards, typically you've got the 24 pin on the same spot, you got all the PCI Express slots are gonna be in the same position, all the fan headers. And ITX motherboards, they all are gonna be very different based on the manufacturer.
It gets so annoying that even from motherboard to motherboard, the pinouts and the IO are located in different positions so that you have to route cables differently and pre-plan things based on the motherboard that you have. Not only do you have to worry about your CPU cooler fitting in your case, your graphics card getting enough airflow, and seeing if you can actually route your cables far enough, see if your cables are long enough to do these runs. Let's not even get to power supplies yet. Do you have the right connections on your ITX motherboard? Your motherboard might not have two M.2 slot. It might not support as much RAM. It is a lot more to deal with just to make your computer smaller. So I want to hear a good reason to actually go small form factor, and I can already see you guys. You're right. You're click-clacking in the comments and you're like, okay, well, I have small form factor so I can move my computer, or I can fit it on my desk and it's more tucked out of the way. Look at this. Top selling computer cases on Newegg. Okay, so these are all ATX cases, mid towers. Now let me know if you see one that is like, this is Where's Waldo here. Find the mini ITX case. I'm just gonna say, you're not gonna find one on the first page. You're not gonna find one on the second page. You're not gonna find one on the third page. And you're gonna finally find one on the fourth page. This Lian Li H20. This is apparently one of the top selling ITX cases. Yes, there is like micro ATX cases, but we're not including those in this video because those aren't really relevant. Those are still pretty big cases. Yeah, you're looking at $140 for a smaller case because the smaller case actually needs more engineering thought put into it. Even though it's less materials, it needs more thought so that you can actually get good airflow to your components, and it makes it routable. And you also have to pay for the PCI riser cable that connects your GPU to your motherboard and things like that. You have to pay a little bit extra for a small form factor power supply like an SFX. You see in Linus's live stream that they did, they have a very tiny little power supply.
Okay, here's my magic trick. It's so small. It's freaking tiny. Fits in the power of the sun in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, as things get smaller, they get more expensive, funnily enough. 2022, Jay. Had thermal problems with this one, and just imagine having to always worry about your CPU or your GPU overheating.
But you can see by looking at the screen, the GPU is currently at 80C. CPU is hovering in the upper 60s to low 70s, even with low usage.
His GPU is hitting 80 degrees and his CPU is like hitting 75 degrees. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not that bad. But when you consider that he had a liquid AIO in there to cool the CPU and how much that costs compared to getting just a normal air cooler, this is a benchmark of mine. Yes, my CPU is at 76 degrees, but I have a $30 air cooler in it. I have the Thermaltake Peerless Assassin. You can see that it's hovering around 75 degrees. My GPU maxed out is running at like 80 degrees. For all the work that you put into a small form factor system to try to get decent temperatures, I have a bad setup. I have stock case fans from a deep cool case that was $35 that I bought 7 or 8 years ago. And they have blue RGB on them, just out of the box. And then I have a small Fantex fan that is in the back of my system. I do not have an ideal setup by any means, and I get these temperatures, okay? And I'm not even in a very big case, a very restricted airflow case, 2 little things at the top of it where air can go in, and then it can go out just barely in the back. Okay, there's barely any airflow in this case. and I'm getting the same temperatures that he is, and I didn't have to put any effort into it. So just imagine making a small form factor system. You have to deal with all these thermals. You have to deal with components fitting together, which in most cases, you're not gonna have to deal with. Not only that, but with your ITX motherboard, you're gonna have to deal with having less IO, less connectivity. You might have less fan headers. You might have no RGB headers. You might only have one M.2 slot. Just a lot of things that you have to deal with that you normally don't have to with a normal build. So I ask you guys this question: why would you build small form factor? And you can see from what I showed you earlier that with sales from cases, it is not very popular. Okay, it was the 80th most sold case on Newegg. Double check me on that, but that is the first one I saw. And even if there is one that's higher up, it's still niche. Okay, that doesn't really mean it's not niche. It's that 1 out of 80, there was one other one that I didn't see. You can also see from Optimum Tech here that it gets loud.
At full load though, the T1 build is definitely louder, unleashing 4K ray traced gaming on this thing. The performance is absolutely ridiculous, but as I mentioned in that initial video where I built this thing, don't expect a quiet experience. I'll admit I did have to take my IEMs out of my ears to really notice the noise in the first place, but if you're pairing 4K gaming alongside open back headphones or recording with the microphone, yeah, this is not the solution that I'd recommend. You'd be much better off with a larger case like the NR200P Max or even a mid tower.
Even Ollie here, he even mentioned that, oh, you should just go to a bigger case if noise is an issue. And couldn't have said it better myself. It's funny because all of these videos on YouTube get good clicks, despite small form factor systems really not having like that good of like an actual use case. To a lot of people, or just being able to cram the craziest, most high power components in here, just that concept is really cool. It's like, how are the thermals? Like, does it perform as well as other systems? How good have small form factor cases gotten to this day? Just how cute and tiny it can be, even though to most people, they're not really that practical, because in the end of things, your components are going to run hotter. They're going to be louder. They have an earlier risk of dying and degrading over time. And then you also have to figure out all the logistics of fitting everything in this case. The case doesn't even cost anything less. And in fact, the entire system might cost more because you need specialty components like a power supply, special fans, or special CPU cooler. It's just so much to deal with. Why would you ever go small form factor? I did want to show you guys one thing that's actually really cool, and that is that the 4090 in these cases, it's really cool. The 4090 is like a 450 watt card, but the engineering on these small form factor cases have actually gotten so good. You see here, the 4090 Founders Edition runs at about 68 degrees ish. Linus had the 4090 in here running at 68 degrees as well.
But I'm dead at a lot of FPS, and 68 degrees.
The engineering and the impressiveness that actually comes with this, and I think that's why these videos do really well, it's just impressive. What can we do? How much technology can we cram in a small space? And yes, it comes at a cost of noise and thermals and lifespan of your components, but it makes a really cool YouTube video.
Oh yeah, like that's kind of a cool computer. Oh, it's small? Oh wow, that's a really cool computer.
The use cases are that, yes, you could move around your system a little bit easier if you wanted to, if you're going on trips consistently, or if you move consistently. Possibly having a small form factor system would be nice. But again, niche. Most people have their setup on their desk or under their desk. I have mine under my desk. Okay, this is the permanent setup, okay? Whereas a small form factor system is like, who's really moving their computer that consistently? If you wanted a system for work that would do something like that, where you would want to move a setup, you get like a Mac Mini. I mean, that's just what you do, or you'd be using a laptop. And laptops have a great use case because the monitor's already built into them. So small form factor doesn't really make sense. And the other thing would be like to have a little bit more desk space, and for all the hassle that you'd have to go through to get a small form factor system. First of all, you can put it on the ground. Usually don't even look that cool. It's usually just impressive to be able to see that all that power is crammed into such a small body. It's like, how much room does having a small form factor system on your desk actually save you, for one? Then two, I would rather just have a bigger desk than a smaller case. And if I'm gonna be spending extra money on getting a case, and all the stuff that works to actually make the system happen, I would just get a bigger desk, man. Like, it's really not that deep. I don't know. Small form factor systems confuse me And I want to know, does it confuse you guys as well? And I'll see you guys in the comments below, but that's all I got for you. Peace.